So we're going to talk about creation today. So that means we also implicitly will be talking about fall as well. And you might have heard the statement that, you know, when it comes to Adam and Eve, it wasn't the apple on the tree that was the problem. It was the pear on the ground. So just a little creation joke to start us off for today. All right. If I typed in create a new you in 2019, and this is what I found. Create a new you 2019, your enlightened life, how to create a new you in 2019, tips for reinventing yourself. I was curious about maybe typing that in for every year, how to recreate yourself in 2018. I'm on the way, all the way back. But this talk, in part, reminds me of one of the first talks I gave about this in 2007 to the Duke Campus Crusade group. And in that, I kind of had the same theme about what it means to resist this idea of creating ourselves. But on that year, I brought as a sample, How to Create a New You for a New Year, Ebony Magazine, 2007. So this idea of, you know, reinventing oneself and creating a new you. And this is Will and Jaden Smith on the cover. So if you're interested in seeing what Jaden looked like in 2007, you can come up here and take a closer look at that later. But it's the same theme, how to create a new you for a new year. And like I said, hopefully none of you will leave today feeling like the pressure is on you to do that. I call this my Mr. Rogers slide. You hear this a lot. Today I want us to take a close look at it. What does it mean? I left the screen blank for a reason. You know, what does it mean? Well, it could mean lots of different things. But I want to do the best that I can to tell you what I think reality means when we say this. There was a study done back at the same time I gave this talk in 2007. And she published her findings in 2009. Jean Twinga published her results of the Narcissistic Personality Inventory, 16,475 college students nationwide. And this is what she said. We need to stop endlessly repeating, "You're special," and having children repeat that back. She says that to the song, Frere Jacques, does anybody remember that song from nursery school? Frere Jacques, dormez-vous, dormez-vous. She says that she cites a nursery school or kindergarten that uses that song, and instead of those French words, they say, I am special, look at me, look at me. And that's the inculcation of that idea starting at a very young age. So what's the alternative? Do we just go around and say, you're not special? This is interesting because I'm going to finish the quote. We need to stop endlessly repeating you're special and having children repeat that back. Kids are self-centered enough already. You see where she's starting? She's starting kind of from a negative posture. She's worried about entitlement. She's worried about self-centeredness, and she wants to make a statement that that's where we've got to really protect against, because people are that way at the deepest part of who they are, and therefore we need to, maybe her remix would be, you know, I'm not special, don't look at me, I am gross. Interestingly enough, this same motif gets played into all the way from the nursery school rhyme into the atonement. Because there are some models of the atonement that say, because Christ died for you on the cross, God tolerates you. And now when he looks at you, he doesn't really see you, thank goodness. He sees Jesus. Because kind of the implicit point of that is, if he saw you, he'd really be it'd be revolting. So thankfully, he doesn't see you. And you're depersonalized in that motif. He sees Jesus. It's like you're hidden by Christ from God. When Colossians 3 tells us quite the opposite. We are hidden with Christ in God. Huge difference. But this is what happens when we set the trajectory early on. Maybe in your small groups today, your breakout sessions, after Zach talks, you could come up with a better Frere Jacques rhyme that goes along with what we're talking about today, if I don't break my tooth on this microphone. All right. So today we're out to define reality by revelation. Not the virtual reality, not the harsh reality and the brutal reality. You know, if you Google the word reality, those are the modifiers that come up most. Virtual, harsh, brutal. Again, it's starting from a point that reality is the bad stuff. Man, I went to the weekend, had a great time in the mountains, but now it's back to reality. What is that? The self-created reality, the self-perceived reality, not the reality based on what, we're not talking today about the reality based on what others think about, say about me, not the reality based upon what I think about myself. We need revelation. Give me revelation. Give us revelation today, Lord Spirit. So, as I often say, and this is the old New Age idea, trying to know yourself, but today I want to present this truth claim that we really can't know ourselves by looking deep within ourselves. Know thyself is not the way to thy true self. But how do we do it then? Here is what I'm presenting today as the reality special. In fact, I want to make a statement, and Susan, I'm going to put this to submission for you and the board, that maybe the owl should be the reality bird. I know it might be rivaled by the dove and other things, but the owl, come on guys, the owl. Why the owl? Because the reality definition of special, in my opinion, and again, I don't have any authority speaking for Reality Ministries, but in my opinion, the reality special is based on the who. Who. Give me an owl sound. Somebody give me a better owl sound. Who. The reality special is based on this. Who is Jesus Christ? Who is God? Who is Jesus Christ? Actually, it could be a three who's. But the idea that Jesus Christ reveals God to us is where we start. No one has ever seen God, but Jesus Christ, the one and only Son, has made him known. John 1 tells us. That's revelation. So we start with who is Jesus Christ, and in that we find who we are. The who. Who is Jesus Christ? Therefore, derivatively, who are we in the Creator and Lord Jesus Christ? From the beginning, Reality Ministries has emphasized the reality of who Jesus Christ is. And it's here that we stake our claim about who we are. Yes, we are special. Special, in my opinion, uniquely, because in the humanity of Christ, every single one of us shares in the humanity of God. We are special not because humans have some secret intrinsic ability to create and recreate themselves, but because we're all created and redeemed by Jesus Christ, who loves us. In Jesus Christ, we discover, as C.S. Lewis would say, our true selves. Now, before we go any further, there can be a lot of talk about true self, false self, without reference to Jesus Christ. It's all over, not just Christian biblical scholars or thinkers. Things can get humanistic very quickly. Reach within to find yourself. Self-discovery. Know yourself. True self and false self must always be kept in the context of the one person. Otherwise, they just devolve into abstractions, like two planks of wood tied together with a rope. But no, we always have to keep in mind that we keep them in the one person. So for instance, we don't say, my false self has a toothache. Now, I don't think God created toothaches. I think it's part of the fall and our false self. But I don't say my false self has a toothache. I say I have a toothache. We keep these together in the single subject always. The one thing that Pat's true self and Pat's false self have in common is Pat. Now, not only can these concepts be abstract when separated from the one person, the true self can be very arbitrarily assigned. Have you ever heard the following explanations or excuses? Explanations or excuses. I'm thinking especially of excuses or explanations after something has happened. That's not ideal. I wasn't in my right mind, which leads us to ask, well, what is our right mind? That wasn't the real me. What is the real you? This is the arbitrary assigning. That wasn't my best self. Well, what is your best self? That wasn't me speaking. It was Captain Morgan or Jack Daniels or pick a name. How about this one? I don't even recognize the person that did that to you. I'm sorry. Please believe me when I tell you that wasn't me. Now, these things come across as disingenuous when they're used to evade culpability, when they're used to evade blame, because we've lost the single subject, the one self. But can a true false self approach be helpful in interpreting our lives? Brandy Carlisle is a brilliant artist, and I was hoping to be able to play the song by hitting that little icon. However, at least I have the stanzas here. And that's really the main point. You should listen to the song. These stanzas, that's okay, David. Sure. Well, if you can do it real quickly, but these stanzas are obviously symmetrical. They're reflecting the false self and the true self, so-called. And I know that Brandy is a Christian. Well, I have it right here. No, you don't have to play it from the beginning, no. I've got just a segment, so anyway. I'm not very good. I was really hoping I could really impress with this. Gosh. But anyway, I had just a segment that has these stanzas in it. And the first one, did I lie through my teeth? Gosh, she has such a great voice. I wish you could hear. Did I cause you to stumble on your feet? Did I bring shame on my family? Did it show when I was weak? Whatever you've seen, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. Oh, that wasn't me. Do I make myself a blessing to everyone I meet? When you fall, I'll get you on your feet. Do I spend time with my family? Did it show when I was weak? I love the fact that she repeats that line. There's something really powerful about that. When that's what you've seen, that will be me. That will be me. That will be me. Like I said, I think she's right in her assessment. But how can we know that we're not arbitrarily assigning things to my true self? After all, it's really easy to seize the high ground by claiming my true self is good and that the bad things I do are just regrettable exceptions. What's our anchor of reference in making such a claim? How do we know it's not the other way around? It all seems kind of squishy. Thankfully, I believe we can attain a concrete understanding of humanity by starting not with ourselves, but with the person of Jesus Christ, who is God and also the tangible expression, the visible expression of the invisible God in the flesh. Have you ever heard sinful nature as if that's synonymous with human nature? Let's interrogate that for a minute. A lot of people think human nature is innately sinful nature, that they're equivalent, that they're equal. Where did we get that from? I think it's from a bad sense of creation. Sinful nature can be misleading if we think of original sin as the most accurate understanding of human nature. And believe me, I am of big opinion about how bad the fall is and how bad sin is. If you're interested in reading a book about it, I can tell you where to find one. The point is not at all to diminish the problem of sin or the fall. But let's just think about what's first things first.